May the souls of our departed rest in eternal peace. Thank you. Mr. Speaker, despite the challenges caused by this pandemic, we in Zambia have remained resolute and determined to overcome the challenges we face today. Let me therefore commend all Zambians for being resilient and hopeful in these very trying times. Mr. Speaker, I want to assure you that government is doing everything possible to address the challenges we face today. This fight calls for active involvement of everyone. Acting together, we will win, and win we must. Mr. Speaker, before I proceed further, let me take this opportunity to congratulate our new members of Parliament, Honorable George Sanga, Member of Parliament for Lukasha constituency, and Honorable Kabaso Kampampi, Member of Parliament for Mwansabombwe constituency. To the two members of Parliament, please, gentlemen, do not take your electoral victory for granted. You have the responsibility of passing legislation and attending to other important matters of the House for the good of our people. You should never abrogate this important responsibility and betray the trust of the people who voted for you. The people have reposed their confidence and trust in you. They want improved livelihoods through your effective representation in this House. Mr. Speaker, the inclusion of national values and principles in our Constitution is in itself indicative of their importance. These values and principles are: 1, morality and ethics; 2, patriotism and national unity; 3, democracy and constitutionalism; 4, human dignity, equity, social justice, equality, and non-discrimination; 5, good governance; 6, integrity; and 7, sustainable development. These values and principles provide the moral compass for our country. They guide every decision we make, every policy we formulate, and every law we enact. Mr. Speaker, I'm here to give an account of how we in government have applied the national values and principles from the time we enshrined them in the Constitution. On morality and ethics, Mr. Speaker, citizens who are morally upright greatly contribute to building the moral fabric of any nation. Mr. Speaker, the question arises, what is moral fabric? Mr. Speaker, an American philosopher, Dr. Sarah Stroud, defines moral fabric as the keystone keeping the arc of our society and the moral it holds high together. With the moral fabric of society held in place, the people share a standard of dignity with each other, with each sharing a common respect and amount of dignity. Obviously, I had to paraphrase this. Mr. Speaker, having said this, however, I have observed with concern the declining morals and ethics in our country. This is evidenced by the high prevalence of gender-based violence, child marriages, teenage pregnancies, and alcohol, substance abuse, and most of all, social media abuse. I will later talk about social media abuse in detail because it is of great concern to all of us. Mr. Speaker, according to the United Nations Development Programme Human Development Report for 2020 on Zambia, the percentage of violence against women ever experienced from an intimate partner among the female population aged between 15 and older stands at 45.9%, which is way too high. Mr. Speaker, the percentage of married women aged between 20 and 24, married as children on or before the age of 18, is 29%. Again, this is too high and cannot be allowed to continue. Mr. Speaker, gender-based violence, rape, and defilement undermine the health, dignity, and self-esteem of victims. Acts of violence suffered by some of our people, especially women and children, these days are appalling. In some cases, these criminal acts have unfortunately resulted in deaths. We all know of people that are victims of gender-based violence and defilement. We all know of families that are still grieving over the loss of their loved ones. We also know that gender-based violence is a crime. Defilement is a crime. These acts have no place in our homes, communities, and nation. Mr. Speaker, in a bid to stop people from engaging in gender-based violence and defilement, government and other stakeholders have continued to conduct countrywide public awareness and sensitization campaigns. Through these campaigns, more people have been made aware that such acts are inhuman and punishable by law. In addition, we have encouraged people to report cases of gender-based violence and child defilement to the nearest police station or other relevant authorities. In the last 4 years, over 85,000 cases of gender-based violence were reported across the country. In 2017, a total number of 21,504 cases were reported. The cases reported in the year 2018 were 22,073, while in 2019, the number was 25,121 cases. By the third quarter of last year, 2020, 17,089 cases had been reported. For defilement alone, the country recorded over 8,000 cases in the last 4 years. The increase in reported cases of gender-based violence and defilement, for me, is a clear indication that our sensitization programs and campaigns are bearing fruit. More and more people are abandoning the culture of silence on these vices. Mr. Speaker, I am happy that the involvement of traditional leaders, the church, civil society, and the media has been instrumental in encouraging our people to report these cases. Let us affirm our commitment and continue with the good work of ending gender-based violence and child defilement in our society. I urge everyone to report these crimes whenever they occur. Let us not shy away from reporting such cases, as doing so will not help the victims get justice. The more we come out and report these cases, the more the perpetrators will be exposed and punished. This will act as a deterrent to would-be perpetrators. Mr. Speaker, the establishment of gender-based violence fast-track courts in Lusaka, Central Province, Eastern Province, Copperbelt, Southern Province, and Western Province is contributing to the speedy disposal of cases. Ordinarily, cases of this nature would take 2 years or more. With the establishment of fast-track courts, the time to adjudicate these cases has significantly reduced to an average of 3 months or less. The volume of cases disposed of has consequently increased from 199 in the year 2017 to 1,262 cases in the year 2020. Mr. Speaker, to assist the victims of gender-based violence and defilement, we are providing social, medical, and legal support. Since 2017, 27,528 females and 16,445 males have received assistance from established institutions. The results from these life-saving interventions are heartwarming and indeed very encouraging. I know of a story of a woman called Towela. Obviously, Towela is just a fictitious name, but this woman lives and exists. I know of a woman whom I've chosen to call Towela, who was in an extremely abusive marriage and wanted to leave. Her own family did not want to take her back, and she had nowhere to go. She sought the services of a gender-based violence one-stop center that referred her to a place of safety. Towela now has been helped to overcome her situation. She is a successful businesswoman and now totally dedicated to helping other women who find themselves in similar situations. Mr. Speaker, I can only urge everyone to participate in rendering assistance to victims of gender-based violence and child defilement. They need our help. They deserve our help. We all have a moral duty to support and heal victims of gender-based violence and defilement. We must end gender-based violence and defilement. As the great American artist Steve Wonder, musician, and Kenneth Edmonds sang their song, "How come, how long do we let it just go on, turn our backs and carry on? How long?" We must end gender-based violence and defilement right now. Mr. Speaker, child marriages and teenage pregnancies are not only a violation of children's rights, but also a danger to their health. These vices impede girls from realizing their full potential. These vices are harmful, not only to girls themselves, but also to their communities. To end child marriage, my government has been implementing a national strategy on ending child marriage in Zambia using a multi-sectoral approach. This initiative is now bearing fruit, especially in the rural areas. And working with our esteemed chiefs as change agents on addressing this vice, positive change has been recorded and more is coming. For instance, guidelines to protect young people from child marriages and gender-based violence have been formulated in 10 chiefdoms. Implementation of these guidelines has resulted in the reduction in child marriages. In Chief Chamuka's chiefdom of Central Province, for example, incidences of child marriage have reduced from 45 in 2015 to only 8 in 2017. In addition, 67 girls who dropped out of school due to child marriages were withdrawn from the so-called marriages and taken back to school. The success story of taking these children back to school must be encouraged across the country. I urge our traditional leaders to continue with this effort. We need to achieve our strategic vision of ending child marriages in Zambia. Let girls be girls and not wives. Mr. Speaker, to further assist the girl child, we're implementing the school reentry policy to ensure that teenage girls who become pregnant are accepted back into school. In the past 4 years, 27,647 affected girls benefited from this policy. Indeed, the reentry policy is helping the girls to realize their full potential. Mr. Speaker, allow me to illustrate this point further. A girl whom I've called fictitiously Cecilia was expelled from school in grade 11 for getting pregnant. She later had 3 more children, making it 4. But she took advantage of the reentry policy and went back to school. Today, Mr. Speaker, as I speak here, Cecilia is one of the dedicated frontline staff as a registered nurse in our fight against the COVID-19 pandemic. I therefore wish to implore girls who left school because of pregnancy to go back to school and continue with their education. I also urge parents, families, and communities to counsel and guide our children. One mistake should not condemn our girls to a life sentence. Mr. Speaker, alcohol and substance abuse remains a serious concern in our society. If left unchecked, it can lead to dysfunctional homes and society. Further, productivity in the nation suffers. To address this problem, government, together with various partners, has been implementing sensitization, training, and rehabilitation programs across the country. Since 2017, 1.7 million individuals and 1,075 organizations have been sensitized on the dangers of alcohol and substance abuse. In addition, government has trained 171 teachers under the peer education training program in drug abuse. These teachers are setting up anti-drug abuse clubs in their respective schools. And further, 2,802 addicts benefited from the rehabilitation programs. Mr. Speaker, our people, especially the youth, should know that help is available. Services to deal with alcohol and substance abuse are available and accessible in most government health facilities. All it requires is the resolve and support of the family to do the right thing. Let us all hold hands and help our brothers and sisters affected by this problem. Mr. Speaker, I acknowledge the work being done by partners, such as the church and civil society, in providing rehabilitation services to affected persons. As a result of their effort, many of our people who were once addicts are now leading very productive lives. Mr. Speaker, also of concern is the rate of suicides among our people. No problem is insurmountable, and people having mental challenges also need help. Mental diseases can affect anybody, and that is why families, friends, and the public in general need to help our people ravaged by challenges such as depression. In Zambia, suicide rates are now reported to be at 17.5%, that is 17.5 per 100,000 males, and 6.2 among women. This needs to be stemmed before the number goes up. Patriotism and national unity. Mr. Speaker, it is the duty of every citizen to love this great nation. It is the duty of every citizen to defend this nation. It is a duty for every citizen to protect this country. We are all duty-bound to work for the good of this country. This is what patriotism is all about. One way of showing patriotism is to respect our national symbols, the national flag, the national anthem, the coat of arms, the public seal, and the national motto of One Zambia, One Nation. These symbols represent our identity, our sovereignty, and our pride. Mr. Speaker, I'm happy that once again Zambians proudly relate to our national flag. Once again, Zambians sing the three stanzas of our national anthem proudly and freely. Once again, our national broadcaster, ZNBC, recites the motto, One Zambia, One Nation, at the beginning of every news bulletin. Indeed, as Zambians, we should proudly fly our flag high. We should also proudly sing our national anthem and stand still as the anthem is being sung. It's a sign of respect. Mr. Speaker, being patriotic is also about protecting and taking care of public assets. These are built at great costs and meant to benefit all of us. Therefore, any form of abuse, misuse, or damage is a setback to national progress. I urge you all to take personal responsibility for public assets and report any misuse or damage. This responsibility should extend to the protection of our environment and natural resources. To those charged with the responsibility of overseeing the care and maintenance of such assets, I implore you to take the task seriously. We must guard Mother Zambia and anything placed under our charge jealously. Mr. Speaker, patriotism also entails being devoted to and being positive about our country, Zambia. We need to portray a positive image of the country to our children and to the outside world. We must use all available platforms, including social media, to promote the image and interests of our country. I therefore commend all those citizens who are already doing so, particularly those who have taken the initiative to use social media to spread positive messages about Zambia. We are all ambassadors of our country in our own right. Let us blow our trumpet and promote the image of our country. I know that to some, social media platforms are for denigrating the image of our country. Mr. Speaker, here is the deal. Whether you belong to the ruling party or opposition party, you only have one country you can proudly call yours. Whether you live in Zambia or not, you only have one God-given country. Therefore, don't flaunt adopted countries as yours. God gave each individual only one country, and when the right time arrives, you will return to that country. Mr. Speaker, I'm encouraged to see that more of our local products are being sold in shops. Equally encouraging is the fact that more of our people are consuming these products. This is patriotism. It is also a clear indication that our Proudly Zambian campaign has taken root. I am happy to report that 33 companies have so far been certified to use the official Proudly Zambian logo, covering over 500 product lines. This is a step in the right direction, a mark of quality and increasing competitiveness of our local products. The benefits accruing to this national consciousness are evident in the increased consumption of what we produce. This is not only creating a ready market for our local producers, but also creating employment opportunities for more of our people, particularly the youth. I therefore urge all citizens to always think local first when buying goods and services. It should be a matter of pride to consume what we produce. Mr. Speaker, the COVID-19 pandemic and its consequences, such as lockdown, have taught us that we cannot overly rely on foreign products for our livelihood. We must produce and consume our own foods. Mr. Speaker, the patriotic citizens rightly declare and pay tax. In this regard, I wish to express my appreciation and gratitude to all taxpayers who have continued to honor their tax obligations. Fellow countrymen, your tax builds the nation. Your tax educates the children of the country. Your tax supports the vulnerable in our society. Evading tax is therefore unpatriotic and a serious crime. As government, we continue to do our best to make it easier for our taxpayers to meet their obligations within the comfort of their homes or place of work. Mr. Speaker, we have citizens and organizations that are demonstrating an admirable and inspiring sense of patriotism. They're responding to disaster and emergency situations of our country. In 2020, a number of them came on board to support the national response against the COVID-19 pandemic. Others came to the aid of our people during floods and droughts experienced in the country, while others joined the fight against the African migratory locust invasion. This is the way it should be, and to you, I say, I salute you, and your country salutes you. Government on its own cannot fully meet the needs of our people in times of distress. I urge our people, the corporate world, and civil society to continue partnering with government in times of need. This is a sign and measure of patriotism. It is a sign and demonstration of unity. As we prepare for the August 21 general election, I call upon all eligible citizens to demonstrate patriotism by participating as voters and candidates. Mr. Speaker, national unity is essential in promoting peace and stability. We need to unite as a people to build a prosperous Zambia. That is why, like I said earlier on, my government is actively promoting the motto of One Zambia, One Nation. Inspired by this motto, my government is taking development to all parts of the country without leaving anyone or any region behind. Mr. Speaker, notwithstanding the peace we have enjoyed as a country, we have continued to witness incidences of politically motivated violence. This is not only worrisome, but also disheartening for a Christian nation with a long history of being a beacon of peace. One of the root causes of such violence acts is the increasing polarization of our society along regional and ethnic lines, especially by politicians. Polarization of our society along regional and ethnic lines is being perpetuated mostly by politicians. This must be condemned with the contempt it deserves. To address political violence, my government is working with various stakeholders, such as the civil society, political parties, and the church, to promote inter-party and intra-party dialogue. As a nation, we must develop a culture of settling our differences in a peaceful manner. We must be broad-minded and accept that there will always be others with divergent views and opinions. And in elections, there will always be the victors and the vanquished. The renowned civil rights leader, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., was right when he said, I wish to quote, "We are tied together in the single garment of destiny. We must all learn to live together as brothers, or we all perish together." We are all tied together in the single garment of destiny. We must all learn to live together as brothers, or we all perish together. We owe ourselves the duty to safeguard the unity of our nation as Zambians. We have more in common than what separates us. Let us at all times foster unity and build a better Zambia for all, especially as we approach the 12th August 2021 general election. I wish to turn to democracy and constitutionalism, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, government remains committed to promoting democracy and constitutionalism. We believe in rural politics, plural politics. We believe in the upholding of the Constitution as the supreme law of the land. We believe in the rule of law and strong institutions of the state. As a country, we hold general elections every 5 years. This is what our Constitution demands. Elections provide a platform for our citizens to elect leaders of their choice and to hold them accountable. This is a key attribute of democracy. Mr. Speaker, we have made headway in our preparations for the next general elections to be held on Thursday, 12th August 2021. In 2020, the Electoral Commission of Zambia, ECZ, embarked on an exercise to develop a new register of voters. Mr. Speaker, this exercise was necessitated by recommendations made by political parties, civil society players, and international observers, following concerns raised after the 2016 general elections. The new register has enhanced security features to increase the credibility of our elections. Mr. Speaker, through this august House, let me thank the Zambian citizens who turned up in large numbers to register as voters. I also commend the Electoral Commission of Zambia and all stakeholders for sensitizing our people on the importance of registering as voters. Mr. Speaker, the efforts of the Electoral Commission of Zambia, political parties, traditional leaders, and other stakeholders resulted in a provisional register with slightly over 7 million people against the targeted 8.4 million eligible voters. This represents 83% of eligible voters. This is commendable, especially that the new voters register has captured more voters and outnumbers the old register by far. Mr. Speaker, registering as a voter is not an end in itself. I therefore urge all those who have registered as voters to turn up in large numbers and exercise their democratic right to cast their valuable vote on Thursday, 12th August 2021. Mr. Speaker, my government will ensure that law and order prevails before, during, and after the elections. Let me repeat and stress that my government will guarantee and ensure that law and order prevail before, during, and after the elections this year. That's the only assurance I can make. Beyond that, I'll be speculating, but I know that we will maintain law and order. Allow me to proceed to say something on human dignity, equity, social justice, equality, and non-discrimination. Mr. Speaker, my government is promoting human dignity, equity, social justice, equality, and non-discrimination for all citizens. This is demonstrated in the manner social services are being provided to our people across the country. To improve the quality of life for people without leaving anyone behind, government is implementing programs in education, health, water, and sanitation. We are also improving access to electricity, as well as information and communication technology. In addition, work is being done to increase our people's access to justice. Mr. Speaker, with regard to education in the last 4 years, government has constructed 69 secondary schools across the country, bringing the total number to 1,114. This has created 41,000 additional school spaces for our learners. To promote inclusive education, we have also increased the number of teachers trained in special education from 1,380 to 2,275 in 2019. Currently, the number of public schools with facilities to cater for learners with special needs stands at 227. In addition, 10 special education schools have been constructed since 2017, bringing the total number to 51 such schools across the country. These facilities are providing education services to about 130,000 learners with special needs per year. Further, to promote the dignity of persons with disabilities, government is supporting 73,365 beneficiaries with disabilities under the Social Cash Transfer Program. Mr. Speaker, my government is supporting students from poor and vulnerable households with student loans and scholarships. By end of 2020, government had supported 22,799 students compared to 17,221 students in 2017. Currently, 30% of loans and scholarships is preserved for female learners, while the remaining 70% is competed for by both male and female students. These quotas also apply to enrollment of learners in universities and colleges. Mr. Speaker, to enhance pupil attendance and nutrition among primary school learners, we have scaled up the homegrown school feeding program. Currently, government is feeding 1,127,000 learners in 2,800 schools in 41 districts, compared to 1,052,760 learners in 2,700 schools in 38 districts in 2017. We are determined, Mr. Speaker, to ensure that no child drops out of primary school on account of hunger. Mr. Speaker, government is addressing the plight of children living on the streets. To this effect, we have been removing, rehabilitating, and reintegrating these children into society. Since 2018, 1,935 street children were removed from the streets and subsequently reintegrated into society. Further, Mr. Speaker, government through the Zambia National Service is providing skills training to adolescents removed from the streets. This program is empowering street and vulnerable youths through character transformation and skills training. Mr. Speaker, the training received includes carpentry, general agriculture, metal fabrication, bricklaying, as well as tailoring and designing. We want these youths to become productive citizens in our society. In 2020, we targeted 1,100 adolescents, out of which 350 boys commenced their training at Chiwoko, Zambia National Service Training Camp in Katete. The remaining 500 boys and 250 girls will this year commence their training at the Chishimba Training Camp in Kasama and the Kitwe Training Camp. Mr. Speaker, this exercise of ending streetism amongst children from disadvantaged families in our society using the Zambia National Service is a glowing success and is unprecedented. It is yet another example that this government cares for everyone. And to you, my dear youth, let me tell you this. To us in the PF government, it does not matter which family you come from or which region you come from. As long as you are a citizen of this country, this government cares for you. This government wants the best for you. Mr. Speaker, in the health sector, my government has constructed over 500 health facilities since 2017. We have also recruited over 23,000 health workers. To ensure efficiency in the supply of drugs and medical supplies, we have established 5 regional medical storage and distribution hubs. Mr. Speaker, as a result of these efforts, more and more of our mothers are now giving birth in health facilities supported by qualified personnel. In addition, our people are now covering less distances to access health services and essential drugs, which are now within their reach because this government cares for everyone. Mr. Speaker, as a pro-poor government, we have an obligation to ensure that the rural population also benefits from the development agenda of the country. I am therefore happy, Mr. Speaker, to report that implementation of the Electricity Service Access Project is going on very well. By the end of 2020, the number of beneficiary households was 29,968, out of which 9,082 were female-headed households. Once completed, 38,296 households in rural areas will have access to electricity. Further, government is implementing other projects to increase access to electricity in rural areas. And indeed, there's no doubt that this government cares for everyone. Mr. Speaker, we have continued to increase access to safe and clean water and adequate sanitation. Last year, 1,813 boreholes were constructed and 362 boreholes were rehabilitated. Further, 68 water schemes were constructed throughout the country. This brings the number of boreholes constructed in the last 4 years to 7,987. The number of boreholes rehabilitated in the same period is 2,880, while 119 water schemes were constructed. Overall, 2.5 million people have benefited from these government projects. In addition, Mr. Speaker, I'm glad to report that over the last 4 years, more than 480,000 households were connected to water supply and more than 220,000 to sewerage infrastructure in urban areas. Further, more than 1.7 million people are expected to benefit from various water supply and sanitation projects currently under construction in the country. Mr. Speaker, these initiatives are improving the quality of life of our people. For instance, we are seeing reduced incidences of waterborne diseases. Mr. Speaker, my government has demonstrated commitment to narrowing the digital gap between urban and rural areas in the country. Most of you have seen communication towers in your districts and constituencies. The communication towers and expanded internet infrastructure have enabled our people, including those living in rural areas, to access information and a wide range of services electronically. clearly demonstrating that this PF government cares for all and we will not leave anyone behind. Our people are now participating more in social and economic activities. Equally important has been the increased access by our people to radio and television signals without any hindrance. This has been as a result of our investment in construction of radio and television transmitters. Mr. Speaker, to promote access to justice for all, my government has been providing legal aid services to the poor and vulnerable, and in 2020, 8,756 clients were assisted with legal services compared to 5,177 clients in 2017. The total number of people assisted in the last 4 years stands at 32,276. Mr. Speaker, only on Monday, 1st February 2021, Cabinet approved for publication and introduction here in Parliament during the current sitting a bill entitled the Legal Aid Bill 2021, which seeks to create a comprehensive legal aid system in Zambia that is accessible, effective, credible, and sustainable to persons whose means are insufficient in civil or criminal matters. Mr. Speaker, once enacted, the provisions of legal aid services in Zambia to persons whose means are insufficient to enable them pay for legal services in civil or criminal matters will be enhanced. Mr. Speaker, justice demands that rich or poor, we all must have access to legal representation, especially before courts of law, whether in civil or criminal matters, if necessity so demands. Mr. Speaker, my government has also partnered with public and private universities as well as civil society organizations to provide paralegal training and services countrywide. So far, 280 students have been trained. Mr. Speaker, we are on course in providing equal access to justice for all our people. Mr. Speaker, I wish to turn to good governance and integrity. Mr. Speaker, various measures are being implemented to continuously improve the governance environment as well as promote integrity. Mr. Speaker, to improve service delivery and accountability, we're increasing the number of services that can be accessed online by our people using the government service bus and payment gateway. This is providing a number of benefits to our citizens and the economy as a whole. Firstly, access to online service has led to reduction in the cost of doing business. It is enabling our people to conveniently make payments remotely. It is also promoting safety under the new normal of the COVID-19 pandemic. For instance, one does not need to queue up in order to pay for renewal of driver's license, road tax, or ground rent. Secondly, online provision of services is promoting efficiency. Thirdly, online payment system is enhancing revenue collection. Further, Mr. Speaker, the rollout of e-services is reducing opportunities for corruption, theft, and pilferage of public resources. My government will ensure that e-payments and services are scaled up and become the new normal in Zambia. Mr. Speaker, as of December 2020, over 30 government services were accessible at the touch of a button. Plans are underway to integrate more services on the government service bus by the end of this year. Mr. Speaker, to further bring services closer to our people, central government has devolved some of its function to local authorities. In 2020, motor vehicle licensing, roadworthiness certification, and physical inspection services were being provided by 6 local authorities, namely Kavompo, Mwinilunga, Kafue, Mumbwa, Nyimba, and Lundazi. These services will be rolled out to 6 more local authorities this year. it must be stated here that local authorities across the country are the institutions through which decentralization is being actualized without creating any other parallel structures. Therefore, I wish to direct Cabinet Office to accelerate the devolution of power from central government to local government through the local authorities using existing agencies. Mr. Speaker, to strengthen good governance, government enacted a number of pieces of legislation. The National Planning and Budgeting Act No. 1 of 2020 was enacted to enhance accountability and citizen participation in the national planning and budget processes. In addition, the Public Procurement Act No. 8 of 2020 was enacted to enhance transparency, value for money, completion and accountability in the use of public resources. And competition and accountability in the use of public resources. Mr. Speaker, government will not tolerate any misuse of public resources, and to demonstrate government's commitment to prudent management of public resources, the implementation of the Public Finance Management Act No. 1 of 2018 is in full force. Mr. Speaker, and accordingly, prescribed action is being taken systematically against officers who do not observe the provisions of this act. Mr. Speaker, recognizing the importance of the media in our governance system, government launched the first ever media development policy in November 2020. The policy aims to promote freedom of expression by guaranteeing press freedom. The policy is anchored on 4 pillars, namely media freedom, media pluralism, media independence, and safety of journalists. This development underscores government's commitment to supporting media institutions and freedom of expression. This year, Mr. Speaker, being an election year, the media will continue to play its very important role of being the fourth estate. I am a firm believer, Mr. Speaker, of press freedom, and as we approach the general election this August 2021, on the 12th, I call upon all Zambians to allow journalists to perform their function of reporting on events leading to these elections freely. Conversely, my administration and I expect journalists to observe the Electoral Code of Conduct. Biasness and untruths are not part of journalism. They belong to the drainage. Journalists should also avoid gifts and being pampered with money and material things, because it is this behavior that compromises their reporting. My dear media colleagues, I call upon you to exercise fairness, professionalism, and objectivity. We need a free but responsible media. Mr. Speaker, for those who are in the habit of social media abuse of any kind, I can only say, please change. Use your time productively. You cannot be on social media the whole day just criticizing EDGAR, LUNGU, or government. If it is imperative in your opinion to criticize government or EDGAR, LUNGU, do so, but please do not insult. No one will hear you with your profanities and falsehoods. And here is news for you, social media abusers. Cabinet is introducing a bill in Parliament entitled the Cyber Security and Cyber Crimes Bill 2021. This bill is aimed at protecting persons from cybercrime. And it will not let you go scot-free. So if you do not stop abusing innocent people online, do not say you are not warned. Sustainable development, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, As we pursue our economic development, there is need to protect our environment and natural resources. We need to exploit our natural resources in a sustainable manner for us to attain intergeneration equity while maintaining ecological integrity. To this end, government has over the years strengthened measures aimed at protecting the environment for our needs as well as the needs of future generations. Mr. Speaker, to stem the negative tide of deforestation, we have stepped up afforestation and reforestation activities to improve forest cover. To this end, over 13,272.45 hectares of land across the country has been planted with trees in the last 4 years. Government is also working with communities in the sustainable management of forests. So far, 1.2 million hectares are being managed as community forests under 34 forest management agreements that have been signed since 2018. We are also promoting natural regeneration of forests. Mr. Speaker, I reiterate the call to the nation to plant more trees. Let us also choose to use clean and smart energy such as solar. Let us avoid the use of charcoal whenever we can, which leads to indiscriminate cutting of trees. Mr. Speaker, the tendency by some of our people to settle in fragile ecosystems such as wetlands and protected wildlife areas is a growing concern in our country. This practice exposes settlers to the negative effects of climate change, such as floods. Settling in such areas results in the degradation of these fragile ecosystems as well as human-animal conflicts. I urge, therefore, all our citizens to desist from settling in fragile ecosystems. We owe it to posterity to conserve our pristine environment and biodiversity. Mr. Speaker, in the face of climate change, government will continue to promote climate-smart agriculture, sustainable tourism, and renewable energy in pursuit of sustainable development. We want these sectors to grow and complement the mining sector. Conclusion. As a nation, Mr. Speaker, we have made progress in entrenching our national values and principles. We are on the right path. We have seen more and more of our young girls being withdrawn from child marriages to continue with their education. We have also seen more and more of our citizens reporting on gender-based violence, which has led to more cases being adjudicated, and this is the right thing to do. Let us do more to end child marriage and gender-based violence. Let us have the courage to report all the perpetrators of these vices to relevant authorities. Let us all join hands in this fight. Mr. Speaker, our concerted efforts to foster patriotism are also yielding the desired results. We are now consuming more and more of our locally produced products. It's a clear sign of patriotism. Let us promote and continue our local. Let us continue promote and consume our local products even more. Let us be proud of what we produce. Let us make Zambia stand out among other progressive nations. Mr. Speaker, promoting and safeguarding human dignity, equity and social justice, equality and non-discrimination for our people is top on our agenda. We will therefore continue to increase access to health, education, and justice for all. We also continue to increase our people's access to electricity, water, and sanitation in all parts of Zambia, especially in rural areas. Mr. Speaker, on 12th August this year, our country will hold general elections. As a nation, we have an opportunity to demonstrate the impact of national values and principles in our democracy. We have an opportunity to denounce violence and hatred. We have an opportunity to embrace unity civility, and peaceful coexistence. My government, the PF government, is committed to ensuring that our elections are peaceful. My government is committed to ensuring our country remains peaceful before, during, and after elections. I therefore call upon every Zambian, every political party and player, the church, the civil society, to join me in assuring our people of peace and unity before, during, and after the 2021 general elections. We are one Zambia, and indeed we are one nation. Mr. Speaker, the achievements we have made so far would not have been possible without the involvement of other stakeholders. I therefore extend my sincere gratitude to all Zambians, our cooperating partners, the church, and civil society organizations. To you all, I say thank you so much for continuing to partner with us in ensuring that the national values and principles we have set for ourselves are applied in the interpretation of our Constitution, in the formulation and implementation of our policies, as well as in the enactment of legislation. These values and principles must be entrenched in our private and public lives. This task is the responsibility of everyone. It is for this reason that we have even translated national values and principles into our 7 major local languages. Mr. Speaker, may we all choose to be counted in this noble cause of living by our national values and principles. Let us all commit to making our country safer and better by living by our national values and principles. Mr. Speaker, this Patriotic Front government, which I'm privileged to lead, cares for all Zambians, regardless of who you are, where you are, or whom you voted for. May God the Almighty bless the works of our hands and this great nation, Zambia. I thank you.
The national address on national values and principles by His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Zambia, Mr. EDGAR Chagwa Lungu. Wide-ranging issues that he's touched on in that particular address that should trigger very interesting discussions, interesting reactions, what has been achieved, what needs to be addressed, and we'll be delving into a lot of that as the stage has been set in reviewing where the country is coming from and what ought to be done. The President now, on his way out, having a little meet, a chat with some of the members of Parliament who are in this part of the House. Obviously, you might be aware that others are scattered in other committee rooms, all in the name of implementing COVID-19 health guidelines that demand for social distancing. He started off his address with observance of a minute of silence in recognition and in memory of the Zambians that had to succumb to COVID-19, and built his address from there to end up with a call for continuation of the country's unity, for a call to denounce violence, hatred, and to embrace love and, above all, peace, especially in the run-up to the August 12 elections that are ahead of the country. The president emphasizing that this is an opportunity to showcase that this is a peaceful country, that this is a country which can be seen as a model of peace, even in the midst of diversity. There's so many divergent views that the country has because of its democratic dispensation, and the president confident that that can be achieved, and it's all up to the Zambians, to whom he has given a lot of gratitude for being supportive of the cause to maintain peace. The president has left. The speaker has taken his seat, and it's always to be seen what the direction is at this point, what follows after this.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that at its rising today, the House do adjourn until Tuesday, 16th February 2021.
The question is that at its rising today, the House do adjourn until Tuesday, 16th February 2021. Any debate? I honor the Vice President.
Sir, on behalf of the House, and indeed on my own behalf, I wish to express my sincere appreciation to the President of the Republic of Zambia, Mr. EDGAR Lungu, for the speech that he has just delivered on the progress made in the application of national values and principles. Mr. Speaker, I have no doubt, and the House will agree with me, that the President has raised a number of important issues that require serious and careful analysis by all of us. Consequently, I am of the view that the House should rise now so that honorable members have ample time to study and analyze the speech and reflect on the important issues that His Excellency the President has raised. This will enable the House to make informed contributions during the debate on the address, starting on Tuesday, 16th February 2021. Sir, this is a procedural motion, and I request all honorable members to support it. Mr. Speaker, I beg to move.
The question is that at its rising today, the House do adjourn until Tuesday, 16th February 2021. Any further debate? The Honorable Member for Chilanga.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, allow me to put on record my sincere gratitude for the opportunity accorded to me to speak on the motion just moved by Her Honor, the Vice President, on the occasion of the special address to Parliament by His Excellency, the President, Mr. EDGAR LUNGU, on the progress made in the application of national values and principles. Mr. Speaker, it is necessary that the House adjourns now so that honorable members have ample time to critically analyze the speech and come back to the House next week, fully prepared to debate the various issues contained therein. Mr. Speaker, in this regard, I fully support the motion and urge all my honorable colleagues to do the same. Sir, I thank you.
Her Honor the Vice President, wind up the debate.
Mr. Speaker, I am grateful to the House for its unanimous support of this motion. I thank you, sir.
I put a question. The question is that art is rising today. The House do adjourn until Tuesday, 16th February 2021. As many as are of that opinion, say aye. Of the contrary, say no. The ayes have it. The question has therefore been resolved in the affirmative. Her Honor the Vice President.
Sir, I beg to move that the House do now adjourn.
The question is that the House do now adjourn. Any debate? Any objection? The question is agreed to. The House is now adjourned until Tuesday, 16th February 2021.
The House has adjourned following the State of the Nation address by His Excellency EDGAR LUNGU, and it's at the request of the Republican Vice President Inanga that members of Parliament go through the notes, so go through the speech that the President has given, whose content are so very important, so that as they make a return on the 16th of February 2021, which is a Tuesday, they will have better understood the contents and be able indeed to make meaningful contributions. Franklin Tembo Jr. earlier on cited to the fact that indeed there are a lot of issues that the President has highlighted too, and now obviously the media is now ready to even dissect, call upon experts from various angles so that they can better explain some of these pronouncements that the President has made. A little earlier we were with Reverend Ernest, who is still with us, and the President touched on issues to do with alcohol abuse, child abuse, early marriages, and issues that earlier on the Reverend did refer to. In studios, we'll be engaging development expert Augustine Mukandawira, who is with us already, to just look at some of the other issues that the President touched on. Franklin, quite a speech that indeed sets a tone for what probably the papers will contain tomorrow.
Absolutely. Maybe not the very different part, obviously, is being the COVID-19 aspect. It was important for the President to reflect on, those that have lost their lives. But maybe what he kept on drumming was the need for peace. And the fact that Zambia is going through it, to elections, this year, 2021. But maybe that is what we need to bring in Mr. Mkandawire for. And I wonder what really struck you. I mean, there was so much that the president talked about. But what stood out for you?
Well, I think that definitely, as you're saying, there are a lot of important things that the president did highlight in relation to the very basics of how we as a nation should actually live, and how that foundation actually is important for us to attain a number of things. And first and foremost, I think that he labored pretty much in trying to explain why the moral fiber of a country like ours, the ethics, are really the building blocks for anything that we want to achieve. And I think, unfortunately, as he alluded, is that I think overall, when you look at that picture, the trend is that I think we are not doing much. We've not achieved much, and things on that front seem to be going down and down and down. And then the question is, what should we do? Okay, I think on that point, then he did talk about the role of the family being the core foundation of socialization. What are we doing there? I think we need to do more there as a country. As a parents, we have a duty, we have an obligation to ensure that the children that are growing up are oriented, are socialized, are taught. Because I think traditionally, as a country, as a people, we have rules, Mr. Temple, okay? We have regulations. Those things we used to call taboos, yeah? Those things we used to call myths, in the village, we say, iwe mwamne ulili hapa so ndio mkazi sunga pezeke pamozi na mamuna uzavimba mendo. They were there, for a specific purpose, that they tended to regulate behavior. They tended to build morality. They tended to enhance integrity. And that's where it all starts. And when that fails, then what do we see? When you go again to things that also the president did talk about, issues of integrity,
absolutely,
issues of governance.
I want to barge in there, because I think what it boiled down to was, and again, it's interesting that you mentioned what some of those practices led to. They were part of how society governed itself, but that's what is local, which became to be despised because of influences perhaps from everywhere, and he hammered on what COVID-19 has done. It has kind of made the world realize, and the country realize, that you know what, you have to really depend on your resources. So depending on culture, depending on local production, and him emphasizing, look, support yourself by buying what is local.
I mean, it all stands there. It's all about discovering who you are. And discovering who you are has to start with the foundation. The foundation is your values. If you look at the corporate world, Mr. Temple, you see that they'll always say, these are our core values. So you have a vision, you have the mandate, and you have your mission, and you say, these are our core values. And those core values give you an identity. They give you some symbolism of who you are. So it starts from there. If we don't believe in ourselves, it's about us. It's about our morals. It's about us. Who are we? We are Africans. We are black people. We are Zambians. The starting point is that we have to exist as us. Mm-hmm. So what does that mean? It means that you look around, you have resources. A lot of us would rather even go to Saraula and buy a jacket from Saraula, and you think it's always better. You even buy an underwear from Saraula. And what does that show to you? Do you believe in yourself? Or you always think that comes outside is better? We have our onions, I'll tell you. Go to Rundazi today. I always give this example. The time that sweet potatoes were in short supply at Soweto, which is a hub for Lusaka, we had a lot of sweet potatoes in Rundazi.
What you say, okay, Mr. Mkandawire, is what people have woken up to today as the latest development, because there's a talk about restricting